Aloha, this is Reverend Tim Lytle, and I want to welcome you here to Unity Church of Hawaii, which is at the base of Diamond Head Mountain. Here at this loving ohana, ohana is a Hawaiian word which means family, we celebrate the Spirit living as us. And we celebrate the spiritual principles that are very practical ways to live life. Please join us as often as you can and join us online as we celebrate these spiritual principles and celebrate the amazing spiritual being that you are. Aloha.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. That was awesome. Wow, what a beautiful time of year. And this time of year, we're looking at peace. We hear a lot about peace. And there's lots of peace initiatives at various times of humanity's history. And 2,000 years ago, we have this recorded in Luke chapter 2, verse 14, where angels filled the skies and said, "Glory in the highest, and on earth, peace." Well, what happened? You know? I mean, I'm always a little surprised when that passage of Scripture is read during Christmas and people don't laugh. Because where is the peace? So much of the time we have conflict and tension and people who are struggling and fighting. Some people fighting for their lives, refugees and immigrants. Some people who are just trying to get food to eat. Some people who are needing shelter. Where is the peace? There are all kinds of issues going on in our world. And so what has happened over the last 2,000 years? Did we miss the message? Did we miss what Jesus was here to do? Did we miss what peace was about? Or is peace already here? Or is there something that we're here to do? Is there a reason why we're here? So, I want to look at those questions. We sing the song, "Let there be peace on earth," and let it begin where?
With me.
With me. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. And I remember the first time I came into a Unity church, and I was sitting at the back, and we would hold hands and sing that song, and we would sway back and forth, and I would think, oh, this feels so good. I can feel the peace within. And then sometime the next day, I would lose that sense of peace as I would get into some situation at work or somewhere else that did not feel so peaceful. Conflict. Has anyone this last week seen any conflict? Would you raise your hand if you've seen any kind of conflict or experienced any? Some of you didn't. Wow. Where were you? Can I join you? Because most of the places I'm at, there's some sort of tension, there's some sort of conflict. It can be resolved, it can be worked out, but usually there's some sort of dynamic tension of some sort. So all around us, there is conflict, there can be tension. I think back on those days of Jesus 2,000 years ago, and we often picture that as being a peaceful time. Like, you know, everything was smooth and everything was easy. But the fact was, picture this, a man and a woman who are not yet fully legally married. They're betrothed to one another, which was a formal declaration of commitment to one another, but they haven't, completed the marriage ceremony. She turns up pregnant. They have to travel from Nazareth, their hometown, and go up to Bethlehem, where his family is from, to register for this census. Okay, and she's about to give birth. And there's no room in the hotel, no room in the inn. And so they have to go back where the animals are. And we assume that because the baby Jesus was placed in a manger. And a manger is a feeding trough. You know, it's for animals to eat out of. So we make it this real idyllic, peaceful scene, but actually I'm sure it was kind of stressful. And having been in on the birth of a child, there can be some challenges with that. And that was in a hospital. What about if you're with the animals and you're going to put the baby in a feeding trough? And then King Herod, who hears that, oh, the king of the Jews, he gets all concerned because his biggest fear is loss of power. King Herod's biggest fear is loss of power. And when he hears of another king, he thinks, I got to wipe that guy out. So he sends out this order to kill off all the baby boys in the area of that age to try to wipe out Jesus. That doesn't sound like a time of peace. And then they have to go as immigrants. They travel to Egypt to find protection. Immigrants don't immigrate for the fun of it. They do it to survive. Just in case you didn't know. And so, here they are in all of this situation, and yet the angels who fill the sky say, peace on earth. Where? And we're still asking that. Where is the peace? But we know that within us is that presence of God. Within us we know there is that peace. So at 3 o'clock this morning, I think they were probably getting ready for the marathon. Our neighbors were very loud and jubilant. And I was peaceful, but I was awake. And I thought, okay, there's peace. But there's not peace in all my surroundings. And we can certainly have peace within, regardless of what's happening on the outside. In fact, that's where it has to start. It has to start within. The Vietnamese monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who was doing a workshop during the Vietnam War, and he's from Vietnam, was teaching that all conflict comes from within. And so a student raised their hand and said, all conflict comes from within? That's right. You mean all the conflict we see in the world first starts inside of us? Thich Nhat Hanh said, yes, that's right. And so the student asked, so is the Vietnam War coming from a conflict within you? And he paused, got silent, shut his eyes, looked within. Then he opened his eyes and said, yes, it did. That's taking responsibility. That each one of us need to have that place of peace, knowing that what we hold within gets expressed out here. That's why we need to be generous and merciful with each other, because all of us are dealing with these inner issues. All of us are dealing with internal conflicts. Now, there may be some of you here who have no internal conflict. You are never stressed or disturbed by unmet expectations. You are never disturbed by other people's behaviors or actions. You are never, ever disturbed by outer circumstances. And if any of you are here, would you please humbly raise your hand? That humbly part. Yeah, so all of us need to look within for this sense of peace, but we sing that song, and, some of us are wearing these Me to We shirts. So, what's the minister doing? He's starting to unbutton his clothes. So, we have these Me to We shirts, and that is a reference to the fact that, let it begin with me, but it goes from me to we. That it's not just about internal peace, but as Jesus taught us to pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is, as above, so below. Whatever is divine mind, whatever is divine alignment and attunement, let that be present, manifested, and realized here on earth. So Jesus did not come along and say, hey, just prepare for the afterlife. That isn't what Jesus taught. What Jesus taught was prepare to change your world. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We are here to bring forth the beatific vision, the vision of heaven, here on earth. That's radical. That's crazy, right? But that's the kind of peace that Jesus was talking about. Not only internal peace, but peace in all of our workings, in all of our connections. And that can be a challenge. The season of peace will start January 30th and go until April 4th. The season of peace is something that commemorates the memorial of Mahatma Gandhi. His assassination was on January 30th, 1948. This will be the 70th anniversary. Hard for me to believe. And then April 4th is when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And so that period in between is a time that has been established as a season of peace. And we will in this church be celebrating the season of peace and looking at how we can create peace. Do any of you, now some of you were in the first service, so you can answer. But do any of you know what today is? What special day is today other than the Honolulu Marathon? Your grandmother's birthday. Happy birthday to your grandma. Who else? What else? What's that? No, I don't think it's Hanukkah, but I'll check my Jewish calendar. But what today is Human Rights Day. So, this day, in 1948, the United Nations dedicated this day as Human Rights Day, declaring that all people have the right to self-determination, to speak for themselves, that every person deserves to be treated fairly. And we're still finding ways to live that vision out. It's not always easy. And as I was talking about Mahatma Gandhi, he was in India, and they were, of course, occupied by the English. The English were a small minority who had control of India. They had such control that they even declared that it was illegal. If you were Indian, it was illegal for you to handle salt, because the salt belonged to the English. And so the salt that came from India, the English claimed authority over that. And Mahatma Gandhi, as we see in that statue that's over here in the park, led a large group of satyagrahas. Satyagraha means truth force or soul force. And they followed him to these piles of salt. And he told them, do not raise an arm. When they begin to beat you, do not even raise an arm. And you could begin to hear the cracking of skulls. And more people would come in and replace those that were beaten unconscious. And then more people would come in. That's where the idea of the sit-ins came from. Martin Luther King Jr. studied Gandhi and began to also teach that principle of nonviolence, of satyagraha, of peace not just being the absence of violence or the absence of conflict, but peace being something proactive, where we're doing something positive. And so, we celebrate peace, knowing it is within us and knowing it is ours to give the world. The week before, I didn't say this in the earlier service, the week before Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, there had been an attempt on his life to detonate a bomb to kill him. The government of India, surprise, surprise, did very little to protect him after that or at any time. In fact, it's very possible that the government was in collusion with the assassins. It's very, very possible. And there's a very good book, an expose of this, entitled Gandhi and the Unspeakable by James Douglas. So this attempt had been made on Gandhi's life. What did Gandhi do with the person who tried to take his life? Do you know? He invited him to stay in his house. I mean, this guy believed radically in peace. And so a week later, this person comes and bows to him to give namaste. I behold the divine in you, like Judas giving a kiss. Bows to him, and then when he rises up, shoots 3 times at point blank range. And Gandhi fell back and said, "Hey Rama, which is calling out the name of God. Because Gandhi had prepared for 30 years for this moment and wanted the name of God to be on his lips when his life was taken. Wow, that's commitment. That's commitment to peace. I'm not saying that you have to go to that extent, but what I'm saying is, where is peace? It's in us. And it's in our connection with one another. We need to commit to peace. It's a commitment. It doesn't just show up accidentally. Somebody's got to create peace. It's got to start with us, and it goes from me to we. I used to focus on the presence, and I still do, the presence of God within me as peace. And now I see more and more that God is not only within me, but God is in that connection with one another. As we look at this light bulb and then see this beautiful tree that's in front of City Hall here in Honolulu, the joining together of all those lights. All those lights couldn't shine unless they were connected. They're not all the same color. Not everything on the tree is the same shape. We're called unity, not uniformity. But we need to all work together. We all need to join together. We have different styles. We have different gifts. We have different strengths. We have different experiences and perspectives. And sometimes we can drive each other crazy. But we all need each other. All of our perspectives are needed to work together to shine the light, because the presence of God is showing up individually as each and every one of us. God, yeah, thank you. God didn't have like a cookie cutter, just trying to make everyone look and act the same. We're different because we're all showing up that presence of God, bringing forth that highest and best self as each and every one of us. Let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with me, and let it not stop there. Let it continue with we. Let us go forward as a we. We are in this together. We are connected. We are here to create a world that works for everybody. We are here to create a spiritual community that helps transform people's lives spiritually and in every way. That is our commitment. That is our vision. And that is peace. Aloha. Thank you.